This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight, Halifax mall attack. A woman who tried to stop the fatal assault of a 16-year-old boy testifies at the trial of one of the accused.
Housing concerns. New data shows 66% of Nova Scotians had challenges keeping a roof over their heads in the past year.
And landmark at risk. We hear from two women trying to save this century-old Acadian church.
Scattered flurries tonight and through Wednesday with some more substantial snow on the way for Wednesday night into Thursday morning. We'll time it out with your full forecast coming up.
Good evening. A woman who intervened to try to stop the assault on Ahmed Al-Marak has testified at the trial of one of 4 teens accused of killing him.
The woman says she was able to stop the fighting for a few moments before Al-Marak was fatally stabbed in a parking garage near the Halifax shopping centre last April. Blair Rhodes has the latest from the trial and a warning: these details may be disturbing to some viewers.
Melanie Adolph had just finished an afternoon of shopping with her 2 children at the Halifax shopping centre when she saw what she first thought was a commotion. She loaded her kids into the car, told them to stay there, then advanced on the crowd. She told court she quickly realized it wasn't just roughhousing, and she started shouting and swearing and telling the teens to scatter. She says as she approached, she saw a girl stomping on Al-Marak's head while another boy was kicking him, and a third assailant was throwing punches. Court was told earlier that Al-Marak was told this would be a fair fight with one boy to settle a dispute over a girl. But according to evidence presented in court, the same boy who arranged the fight also arranged to have his friends join in, turning it into a 3-on-1 attack. Adolph testified she thought she was going to be watching a boy get his head stomped in, but her shouting worked for a time. She says the fighters got up and were dusting themselves off when one boy pulled a large kitchen knife out of somewhere and plunged it down into Al-Marak's chest. Adolph said the boy sank to one knee and she tried to get him to lie down to try to stem the flow of blood. She says it was spurting from his chest and there was just too much. Adolph says she asked people who were milling around if they'd called 911. When she didn't get a clear answer, she got on the phone herself. While she was on the phone to the 911 operator, she tried to help Al-Marak and appealed for help from the crowd. She says one person, a motorcycle rider, joined her in trying to stem the bleeding. But Adolph says some 12 to 16 people just walked on by while Al-Marak lay bleeding to death on the parkade floor. Blair Rhodes, CBC News, Halifax.
A man has been arrested and charged in connection with the death of a Nova Scotia woman whose body was found along a riverbank in Edmonton. Police say the 31-year-old who's been charged with second-degree murder was known to 43-year-old Ashley Burke. Burke was from Pictou. They are describing it as a case of intimate partner violence. Burke's body was found near a bridge on the banks of the North Saskatchewan River. Police have not said how she died.
Halifax RCMP are asking for the municipality to pay for 14 new officers. The Mounties presented their 2025 budget request to the city's police board on Monday. The new roles would include a traffic position for Musquodoboit Harbour and community police officer in Sheet Harbour. The force would also open satellite offices with 6 positions each in Beachville and Fall River. The new members would cost Halifax about $2.6 million.
Recent Statistics Canada data shows more than 65% of Nova Scotians faced one or more housing challenges last year. As Nicholas Seguin reports, some say their experiences trying to find stable, affordable housing illustrate a growing problem.
For almost a year, this room has been their home. Terry Singer and her family were evicted from their rental when it was sold and the new owners moved in. Unable to afford a new place, they bounced between couches and hotel rooms.
Almost every renter I know has been affected by this rental crisis. Some families have lost their home multiple times.
Recent Statistics Canada data shows housing concerns are all too common, with more than 65% of Nova Scotians facing issues of affordability, suitability, condition, or discrimination in the past year, and 41% saying they're very concerned about their ability to afford their housing. The numbers are similar for the entire country.
I'm unsurprised by that number. I would say that most folks who work in this type of environment, whether supporting people with housing, would be unsurprised. I think that people are walking on eggshells.
Richter says demand is rising. She gets calls every day from 12 to 15 families who need help, many facing a legal eviction that they can't fight.
When they need to find somewhere else to go, they just absolutely cannot find somewhere else that is affordable.
It's also reaching the middle class. Last year, Keely Corrigan was forced to move when her fixed-term lease wasn't renewed. She has a solid job and was able to find a new place to live, but her rent doubled, now more than half her income.
So I stopped all savings, retirement savings, emergency savings, like all savings stopped completely, and then I scaled back.
While average rental price growth is slowing down in Halifax, Richter says many aren't yet feeling relief.
Some of the solutions that we have in place right now are temporary, and on a long-term basis, they don't give people the security or stability that they need.
She's calling for all levels of government to work together on longer-term solutions. Nicola Sagan, CBC News, Halifax.
And Ryan Snoddon joins us now to talk weather.
Yes, so a break in the snow, but not for long, right?
Yeah, that's right. More on the way, and especially for you folks in Cape Breton and Inverness County, that's going to be the bullseye yet again. As we look at the outlook, very light accumulation tonight. Nothing to write home about, except, yeah, it'll start to ramp up in through Inverness County. The North Shore could see as much as maybe 2 to 5 centimeters as we roll through into tomorrow morning. Now, throughout the day tomorrow, again, some light accumulation possible, but Inverness County will really continue to get hit. Another 15 to 20 centimeters possible there, especially in higher terrain areas, and that will continue into Wednesday night. And by the time we get to Thursday morning, yeah, 15 to 30 centimeters for Inverness. Highest in those higher terrain areas. A trace to 5 centimeters for most of the rest of the province, but the potential for some 5 to 10 centimeter pockets, especially through the valley, up along the Northumberland shore. And it's, again, most of that falling through the Wednesday night time period. Some flurries on tap for tomorrow, but again, it's Wednesday night into Thursday morning. We'll have to keep an eye on that commute. The full forecast is coming up.
All right, Ryan, look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, the number of Nova Scotians in need of a primary care provider continues to go down, according to the province's health authority. Nova Scotia Health says just over 110,000 people are now on the Need a Family Practice Registry. That's down more than 9,000 people since the last update at the beginning of December. The health authority did not say why thousands of people were removed from the list, but officials have said they're still in the process of contacting everyone on the list to ensure they still need to be on it. The percentage of Nova Scotians currently still without a family doctor is 10.4%.
The East Coast Music Awards has announced that it is parting ways with its CEO. This just a few months before the 37th awards ceremony. The board of directors says it will cut ties with Blanche Israel this week following a review of its leadership and operations. Israel is originally from Montreal but moved to Nova Scotia in 2020. The board says former CEO Andy McLean will take over in the meantime until a new permanent replacement can be found. The ECMAs is a 5-day celebration showcasing East Coast music artists and music. It kicks off May 7th in St. John's.
Climate change is not only threatening communities and homes along Nova Scotia's coastline, it's also washing away cherished places, buildings, and artifacts. And as Aaron Potty reports, some say efforts to preserve local history are a losing battle.
Members of a small church in Ingonish, Cape Breton, want to save their century-old cemetery from being washed away.
It's supposed to be a sacred place. I mean, your final resting place.
But a decade ago, bones from some cliffside burial plots began falling onto the beach below. Congregants of the church say the cemetery's bank is eroding because of warming temperatures.
Ice would stop heavy storms from beating up the shoreline. That's been years now since we've seen anything, and the weather has been, everything is severe.
Church congregants have been looking for permanent ways to protect the coastline for years, but a fix, like shoring it up with large stones, could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars.
We can't afford it. We don't have money like that, and I hoped in my time that I could get something done, but I'm 83 now. My time's getting limited too.
In another part of Cape Breton, the Fortress of Louisbourg is facing similar challenges.
So not only do we have fortifications that are at risk, the Princess Bastion in particular, we also have the community that ran along the North Shore, which is a fishing community, as well as other fortifications as well. So the Island Battery is one that we investigated over this past year, and we found that it's almost 50% eroded since the 18th century.
Parks Canada staff are busy documenting pieces of history before they're lost forever.
I often talk about Louisbourg as a 1,000-piece puzzle, and we only have 150 pieces of it. So we're still looking to find more of these pieces.
Large stones were recently placed along the Princess Bastion to protect it from storm surge. But the National Historic Site has the benefit of federal funding, which is not the case for many local landmarks. Over in New Victoria, volunteers are trying to save their community's lighthouse before it's too late.
Mother Nature was knocking these big rocks and the cribbing for the breakwater away, and then it started to eat away at the bank. So that was probably 18, 20 years ago. Right now, there's nothing left here now. There's no cribbing, no breakwater, no armor stone. It's pretty well gone now.
In Badek, another community group wants to protect its lighthouse from rising sea levels that are damaging its foundation.
What we're thinking we're probably going to do is pick the lighthouse up, move it to a temporary location, and then replace the foundation and raise the foundation so that we're going to raise it probably about 3.5 feet, and then put the lighthouse back onto that new foundation.
Much like shoring up the coastline, it's work that doesn't come cheap. But it's a common thread in the fight against climate change, whether there's enough community initiative or government support to find solutions. Erin Potty, CBC News, Sydney.
A landmark Acadian church in the province is at risk of being demolished.
Built more than a century ago, it's now in urgent need of costly repairs. Sabrina Fabian spoke to two women trying to save not just a structure, but what it symbolizes.
Nestled on the edge of the province of Nova Scotia, it's impossible to miss the imposing Église Sainte-Marie, towering above the small Acadian community that surrounds it. Built in the early 1900s by 1,500 volunteers, it's the tallest wooden church in North America, and it could soon be gone. Stephanie Saint-Pierre, one of two professors at the adjacent Université Sainte-Anne, stepped in to save it.
When it comes to minority groups such as Francophones outside of Quebec and Acadians, they don't have a lot of built history or built heritage that has been really collectively built, like courthouses and other public buildings that you would find in other majority communities.
Having lived in the community for 10 years, she recognizes what it represents to the Acadian people. So she's finding ways to tap into provincial and federal funding to save heritage buildings.
We do believe that there is a possibility for, funding to be raised individually, but there will be some key actors that will need to step up as well.
Officially deconsecrated in 2019 following dwindling attendance, the Archdiocese of Halifax-Yarmouth has been trying to sell it for 5 years. The building is in desperate need of repairs. The next step, demolition, was announced in December.
We can't just leave it continually decay indefinitely. If we can't find some other owner for the church, it will have to be demolished.
The unique features of the church add to its challenges.
The thing that's so appealing about St. Marie is its size, right? To get up there to do any work, the size is also the problem.
O'Carroll estimates it will cost about $8 million to repair it.
We're not praying for miracles.
The women are volunteering their own time and searching for experts to help.
Sainte-Marie is a unique architectural triumph from an international perspective, and it is the personal gift of the community.
The two women have been given 6 months by the Archdiocese to come up with a plan to repair Sainte-Marie and hopefully purchase it. If they're successful, that's when the real work will begin. Sabrina Fabian, CBC News, Church Point, Nova Scotia.
There's a look at Dartmouth through the lens of our Harbour Cam on this Tuesday evening. Ryan is up next with the full weather forecast. He's got a bit more winter weather to talk about. We'll see you in just a few minutes.
Well, as the days pass, Nova Scotia looks more and more like January each day, doesn't it?
Yes, it's acting like January for sure, especially up in Cape Breton, more snow.
Yeah, that's right. And 3 feet on the ground now at the North Mountain Station. That's in the Cape Breton Highlands. And more to come there. Maybe as much as 30 more centimeters on the way. Yeah, and kind of a widespread shot there, 15 to 30 for Inverness County. Let's walk you through it. First with our temperatures. You can see we're at -2 Ingonish Beach, 0 at Sydney, -2 Port Hawkesbury, 1 in Cheticamp, and across the mainland, temps a little more uniform with temperatures ranging between -2 and -5 for most. Canso also at 0. As we look at the winds from the northwest, yeah, they have been nearly as gusty today, but certainly still breezy, sustained in the 10-20 kilometer per hour range for most. Not too gusty except for down towards the Yarmouth area, gusting to 43 at last check. Lunenburg gusting to 33. Snowfall warning in effect for Inverness County. And yes, 15 to 25, even 30 centimeters. Not out of the question here by the time we get to Thursday morning. The highest totals likely in the higher terrain areas. It's this onshore enhanced flow that we'll continue to see that snow being more substantial there than anywhere else across the province as the air rises up into the highlands and all that moisture is dropped onto the highlands in the form of snow. And yes, even down closer to the coast could see as much as 15-20 centimeters with this setup coming in. Everywhere else, widespread trace to 5 centimeters, especially down towards the Atlantic coastline. Areas in the north more likely to be closer to 5 to maybe as much as 10 centimeters in some localized areas. This again, is just one band that we're watching of flurries that are rolling through this evening. We'll see a bit of a break, and then the more substantial shot here is coming. It's moving in through Labrador right now, and that's going to be backing in through the later stages of tomorrow. Area of high pressure over the central parts of North America, and we are looking at -17 in Winnipeg. Temperatures on the rise here across Alberta and back towards Vancouver at 6, and you can see Oklahoma City just at 1 as that jet stream has dipped well to the south. Atlanta just at 4 degrees. Now looking at temperatures for tonight, we're going to be talking about overnight lows in the -2 to -4 range with that northwest wind. Generally sustained near 20, gusting 40, but could see some gusts towards 50 for that Tri-County area down towards Yarmouth, Shelburne, and Digby. Now, looking at the outlook, you can see the flurries most prevalent tonight. As we turn the page into the overnight, quieter, mostly cloudy skies, no doubt. That's going to be the case for Wednesday. And here comes the first band that we're watching. This arriving into the afternoon for most of the mainland, but you can see arriving even into the morning for you folks in Inverness County. That will then sweep down and across mainland Nova Scotia through the Wednesday late afternoon and evening time frame. And we'll have a look at temperatures here in the 0 to minus, in fact, -1 to +1 range for Cape Breton for tomorrow. Those winds gusting to 50. Antigonish near -2. Sherbrooke at -1 for tomorrow. Most of the mainland, excuse me, will be in the -1 to -3 range. That's going to be the case for most of Wednesday. Out the winds, by the way, still gusting 20 to 30 and 40 kilometers per hour. There's Thursday. So after that snow does push through Wednesday night, lingering flurries Thursday morning, and then a mix over to some showers as temperatures will be rising into the 1 to 3 range. Likely more than not, it'll be wet flurries, but could see some showers down here into the south and west. So we're picking things up Wednesday evening again. And really, it's Thursday morning that we'll have the best chance of seeing some accumulating snow on the roads. So just a heads up on that. Could see that over northern areas for Wednesday afternoon's commute as well. And then note the milder air mixing in here and how many showers we'll likely see mixing in. That could be even the case into Friday for Cape Breton. Not overly convinced on that. It'll be close. More like flurries under mostly cloudy skies. Some sunny breaks over western areas. Quiet on Saturday. Odds are right now that the storm that we've been watching will stay to the south Saturday night and Sunday. That is not a slam dunk, though, Tom and Amy, and keeping a close eye on it. Right now, it looks like maybe some flurries on its northern edge into Sunday.
You'll be watching. Okay, Ryan. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Coming up, with Donald Trump's election win now certified, how will Justin Trudeau's exit affect Canada-U.S. relations? Welcome back. The Prime Minister's decision to step down has caused political uncertainty in Canada.
Now, 2 weeks before being sworn into office, Donald Trump's latest comments about Canada joining the U.S. are fueling more concerns. Chris Reyes has the details.
Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security.
Definitive and insistent, President-elect Donald Trump said he would consider using economic force to make Canada the 51st state, a suggestion he first made in mid-December on social media, previously dismissed as a joke. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau fired back with this punchy post on X. There isn't a snowball's chance in hell that Canada would become part of the United States, he said. Workers and communities in both our countries benefit from being each other's biggest trading and security partner. At the press conference from Trump's Florida home, he spoke broadly about the priorities of his incoming administration, repeating his tariff threat on Canadian imports.
We don't need their cars. You know, they make 20% of our cars. We don't need that. I'd rather make them in Detroit. We don't need the cars. We don't need their lumber. We have massive fields of lumber. We don't need their lumber. We have to unrestrict them because stupid people put, restrictions on, but I can do that with an executive order. We don't need anything they have.
In a post on social media, Trump said if Canada merged with the U.S., there would be no tariffs. Together, what a great nation it would be, he wrote.
I have so many great friends. One of them is the great one, Wayne Gretzky. I said, run for prime minister, you'll win it'll take 2 seconds, but he said, well, am I going to run for prime minister or governor? You tell me. I said, I don't know. Let's make it governor. I like it better.
Trump also spoke about acquiring Greenland and taking control of the Panama Canal. When asked whether he would rule out military force on that plan, he said this.
I can't assure you on either of those two, but I can say this. We need them for economic security.
An emboldened Trump setting the stage for big battles, still 2 weeks before he officially takes office. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
I'm joined now by Brian Bowe, chair of the Department of Political Science at Dalhousie University. So first off, how does the timing of Mr. Trudeau's announcement impact Canada's ability to deal with that tariff threat, do you think?
It's obviously, it makes it a lot tougher. If all of this had happened a few months ago, before the election, then obviously, I don't think it would have made any difference to Trump's decision to make these threats in the first place. But I think the Canadian government would be a lot better positioned because there's always been this chunk of time between when the initial threats were made and when he's likely to come into office at end of January, and that time could have been used to prepare. And I think instead now it'll be time used to scramble in preparation for election.
Well, here in Nova Scotia, the province is a big exporter of things like tires, seafood, softwood. How do you think Nova Scotia should react to the tariff threats?
I think they should be worried in the way that all Canadian provinces should be, but I think they're less vulnerable across the board than some provinces are. Ontario and Alberta, I'm thinking of in particular, where in Alberta's case, oil exports, if they are restricted this way, would have a devastating effect on the provincial economy. In Ontario, and to some degree Quebec as well, but I'm thinking particularly of the auto industry, where the industry is so integrated and the production chains go back and forth across the border. There would be an enormous dislocation and kind of big disinvestment that would follow from all of this that would, again, have huge impacts on the whole provincial economy. I think in places like Nova Scotia, there are going to be big effects, but they're not going to have that same thoroughly across the board impact. And I think that there are ways for the provincial government to kind of keep some of these producers afloat for a little while a trade war is going on, in a way that you couldn't do the same thing, for example, with the oil industry.
Well, how quickly could producers here maybe change their focus and perhaps find different markets for their goods?
Yeah, I think not quickly. I mean, the reality is that if these producers, let's say something like seafood, that they've already sussed out where their markets are and they know where they can get prices for these things, but they're also thinking about where they have established networks and what the costs are for shipping to these places and what the various bureaucratic obstacles are. And sort of starting from scratch and needing to find new markets is an enormously onerous thing, and smaller businesses obviously really struggle to find the time and the financial and legal resources to reach new markets. It can be prohibitive. So often there is no way to make that kind of an adjustment, and they just have to put up with a very lean time for a while until things get better.
Well, what do you make of Donald Trump saying this afternoon he would be willing to use, quote, economic force rather than military force to join Canada and the United States together?
It's very difficult to know what to take seriously. And it's easy I imagine him sitting around in his bathrobe in Mar-a-Lago just firing off tweets and it's hard to know who he's run these ideas by, and while I do think he is going to have very few guardrails while he's in the White House, there are going to be people there. He's going to talk about these things out loud, and they're going to respond and say, look, that is going to cause a lot of economic pain in the United States, and people are going to push back, and you might want to think about a different version of that or something like that. And I think that one of the weird effects of this time where he's been elected but not yet become president is that we're hearing sort of his unfiltered thoughts kind of coming straight out of him. And it's hard to know which of these things, if any, would be turned into real policies after he gets into the White House.
Just very quickly before I let you go, what does history show about tariffs and trade wars? Do they work?
It depends what you mean by work, right? In terms of re-engineering the bilateral economic relationship, no. But in terms of redirecting economic activity to benefit some groups over others, yes, right? So that there are ways where if you impose a tariff, there's almost always somebody that will be happy about it because the economic activity is turned their way through that state intervention. But there are other people who pay for it by higher prices and a lot of jobs and that kind of thing. And I mean, one of the things we have learned is that the political costs from the people who are hurt by these things tend to outweigh the political benefits from the people who are supported by them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be Trump's experience with tariffs, the way that many American presidents' experiences with tariffs have been in the past. That one of the core groups of supporters would be happy, and many, many more people would be very unhappy.
All right, a lot more to come on this story indeed. Well, thank you very much, Professor Bowe. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coming up, replacing Justin Trudeau. Liberals will soon be lining up for the party's and the country's top job.
And French President Emmanuel Macron accuses billionaire Elon Musk of intervening in Europe's democratic process. Welcome back. The Liberal Party is scrambling to find its next leader after Justin Trudeau's resignation.
But that's just one of several challenges lying ahead. The CBC's Ashley Burke has more from Ottawa.
Justin Trudeau's back at work, but not for long. The Liberal Party's figuring out how to replace him. And now some senior Liberals are deciding if they'll run in that leadership race.
I'm seriously considering that. Otherwise, I don't think we'd be sitting here talking about that today.
But the question is, can a new face drag the party out of a deep hole?
By Trudeau resigning, he's given them the rope and a chance to pull themselves out of that hole.
Dan Arnold, Trudeau's former pollster, says over the past 18 months, the party's faced a steady decline in the polls, and so far nothing's changed that. But a new leader could create buzz.
It is true that a leadership change will cause voters to take a second look at the Liberal Party, but it's not a guarantee this is going to turn things around for the Liberals. It's not a magic potion.
He points to the U.S., where Kamala Harris enjoyed a surge in momentum when she replaced Joe Biden, but faced a bruising defeat. And it's happened throughout Canadian history, too.
John Turner came in replacing another Trudeau Prime Minister. Surge of excitement didn't end very well for him. Kim Campbell came in replacing a very unpopular Prime Minister. Surge of excitement ended horribly for her with 2 seats.
Whoever replaces Trudeau could be the shortest serving Prime Minister in history if they don't win a general election this year.
At this stage, we're not seeing anybody who is so popular or so well known that they would immediately reverse the fortunes and really put some turbocharge into the Liberal Party's prospects. But at least some of them certainly have the potential to lift the party back up.
Former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney says he's considering running, and other cabinet colleagues like former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland is making calls too.
Any current sitting cabinet minister who decides to run for leadership will have to work out how they communicate to Liberals and to the Canadian public how they are different from the Prime Minister who's just stepped away.
The Liberals' National Board is meeting this week to figure out how this leadership race will unfold. Once the rules come out, we'll start to see exactly who is joining this race. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Meanwhile, federal opposition parties are rethinking their strategies now that Justin Trudeau says he's resigning. Kate McKenna reports.
He's been Prime Minister for 9 years.
Until now, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has had one main target.
Justin Trudeau, who egomaniacally holds on to power. Justin Trudeau is a weak leader who has lost control of spending.
Justin Trudeau is finally leaving.
And with Trudeau's resignation, the Conservatives will face another Liberal leader in this year's election.
Nothing has really changed in terms of what the Liberal Party will be offering Canadians.
Conservative House Leader Andrew Scheer says his party's ready to take on any Liberal.
Canadians didn't get tired of looking at Justin Trudeau's face. It's not like they got sick of his voice. They're suffering under his policies.
About a dozen Liberals are rumored to be interested in the leadership. A Conservative source says they'll look to highlight the closeness between Trudeau and the leadership contenders, like what he said about former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland yesterday.
Chrystia has been by my side for close to 10 years now.
Poilievre has already started branding potential leadership candidates as just like Justin.
I think, quite frankly, the Conservatives don't really care who the Liberal leader is. Virtually all of them have been an enabler of Justin Trudeau and his agenda over the past 9 years.
And with Parliament suspended until March 24th, expect Poilievre to be back on the road, meeting voters months ahead of an election.
I asked my assistant today how many events we had done over the last year, and he said it was exactly 600.
It's a great opportunity to get out, meet voters, communicate that message, and really crisscross the country, courtesy of the government's prorogation.
Conservatives have consistently pulled well ahead of the Liberals and other parties. They're eager to help trigger an election as quickly as possible. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
Justin Trudeau's decision to step down also came with the suspension of Parliament until March 24th, as you heard. The CBC's John Hernandez has more on what prorogation means and how it's been used in the past.
At its core, prorogation is a tool that allows the Prime Minister to press pause on all parliamentary activity without dissolving government.
It's a parliamentary norm. Really, it's meant for other kinds of circumstances like, if there's a war, a national emergency, security emergency, there's all sorts of things you could imagine that prorogation would be necessary.
This political scientist says it's become a controversial political practice over the years. In 2008, it was used by Stephen Harper as his opposition leaders attempted to form a coalition to unseat him. Prorogation stalled Parliament, and the coalition deal fell apart.
It's a pretty dramatic move. Harper did it in 2008, and again faced a lot of criticism. It's worth noting that Trudeau also mentioned early on in his tenure as Prime Minister that he condemned that use of prorogation.
Justin Trudeau prorogued Parliament in 2020, which suspended a probe into the We Charity scandal. Jerram says by pausing Parliament now, the Liberals buy some valuable time.
The Liberal Party has some time to choose a new leader. Not as much time as they may like. We would assume that that leader has to be in place a little bit before March 24th, because when Parliament resumes, the objective of the Liberal Party would probably be to try to survive a confidence vote.
Prorogation also halts bills moving through Parliament. Legislation now at risk includes Canada's Online Harms Act, a bill targeting social media companies, and the First Nations Clean Water Act. Those bills would need to be reintroduced to move forward, a tall task for a government whose future is far from certain. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, even as Donald Trump trolls Canada, Elon Musk is posting online attacks about politicians in the UK and Europe. Musk is the world's richest man and part of the incoming U.S. administration, and he's using his social media network X to attack leaders across the pond. As Chris Brown reports, some of them are fighting back.
Take over, Elon, just take... Not content with having the ear of incoming U.S. President Donald Trump, tech gazillionaire Elon Musk is now on a tear trying to disrupt politics in Europe, especially Britain. In social media posts, Musk has repeatedly smeared Prime Minister Keir Starmer, saying he should be jailed, and wrongly accusing him of being complicit in mass rapes when he was the country's chief prosecutor.
We've seen this playbook many times. Whipping up of intimidation and threats of violence, hoping that the media will amplify it.
Musk has inflamed an ugly chapter of recent UK history where thousands of children were sexually exploited by gangs of mostly British Pakistani men. An inquiry in 2022 found fault with local authorities, but not Starmer. The head of that probe says victims want action to fix the system, not distractions.
Certainly been very unhappy about the politicisation of child sexual exploitation and child sexual abuse in the way that many people, sometimes in a very uninformed way, have waded into the argument.
This veteran political watcher says the intervention by the world's richest man into British politics is unprecedented.
His goal seems to be to destabilise the British government, but also, I think, to emphasise to Donald Trump that this is not an administration that he wants to be friends with.
And it's not just Britain. France's president claims Musk is interfering in elections, including siding with Germany's far-right party. But for Starmer and other European leaders, firing back at Musk comes with risks. As one of Donald Trump's most influential advisors, offending him could turn the incoming U.S. president against them as well. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
A strong earthquake near Mount Everest has killed at least 126 people in Tibet. Local authorities also say nearly 200 others were injured on the Chinese side of the border with Nepal. The quake flattened hundreds of homes, trapping people beneath the rubble. Freezing cold temperatures are adding to the misery. The area most affected is a city of 800,000 people, the traditional seat of Panchen Lama, one of the most important figures in Tibetan Buddhism. The U.S. Geological Survey measured the quake at 7.1 magnitude.
The World Health Organization says global risk from bird flu remains low after the U.S. reported its first human death on Monday.
Our risk assessment to the general population is still low, and it remains that. And we certainly are receiving information on a regular basis.
According to Louisiana health officials, the patient was over 65 with underlying medical conditions. The person was hospitalized in December after exposure to backyard chickens and wild birds. Nearly 70 people, mostly farm workers, have contracted H5N1 bird flu in the U.S. since April. A 13-year-old girl in BC recently recovered from a severe case of bird flu. Samples from both the BC and Louisiana patients show similar mutations of the virus. They suggest an increased ability to attach to upper respiratory tract cells.
A new online tool has been created by the University of Victoria to help people understand the impact of their drinking habits just in time for dry January. And right after new calls in the U.S. for warning labels on alcohol bottles about the risk of cancer. Saurabh Sandhu reports.
How much alcohol is safe to drink? It's an age-old question that can now be answered through the help of technology.
This is the first sort of calculator in the entire world where you can get your kind of risks and the benefits of drinking.
NAMI is part of a group of researchers at the University of Victoria who developed a new online tool where people can enter information about their drinking habits and calculate the risk of several alcohol-related diseases.
For people to be mindful about their drinking and can maybe consider drinking a little bit less.
The launch of the website comes as the U.S. Surgeon General calls for guidelines on alcohol consumption limits to be reassessed in that country.
The research has been building for years now. We've had more and more evidence that keeps accumulating year by year. That's giving us a strong connection, a causal link between alcohol and cancer.
He believes alcohol should have a clear label warning consumers about health risks. Researchers in BC say it's a move Canada should consider as well.
The idea that you can have more information on a can of peas than a bottle of whiskey is frankly pretty ridiculous.
In 2017, Yukon had a pilot project that put cancer warning labels on bottles of alcohol. But just weeks into the project, the Yukon government pulled the labels after pushback from the Canadian alcohol industry. Years later, the idea is still receiving mixed reaction.
I don't think the warning label is a deterrent.
I think putting at least a warning label might be a good idea. Alcohol kills more people than smoking in America every year. I think it's hypocritical not to do it for one to the other. I'd just be interested to see any studies before and see does it even work.
Does it work? NAMI says it could make a difference.
We surveyed 900 people across Canada in the development of this website, and we had focus groups. People don't want to be told what to do, but they do want good information.
He says he understands drinking has become a way of socializing, but hopes the new online tool can help empower more people to make informed choices. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Vancouver.
A folk music legend, Peter Yarrow, has died. He was a member of the 1960s trio Peter, Paul and Mary.
Up the magic dragon, live by the sea. Sing it with us.
Yarrow co-wrote the group's most famous number, Puff the Magic Dragon. They also had a big hit with Bob Dylan's Blowin' in the Wind, which they performed before Martin Luther King delivered his I Have a Dream speech in Washington. Yarrow continued to fight for civil rights and other causes throughout his life, but he also served prison time in 1970 for taking, quote, indecent liberties with a 14-year-old girl. Peter, Paul and Mary stayed together until Mary Travers died in 2009. Yarrow died after battling bladder cancer. He was 86.
Canada's main stock index moved lower Tuesday, led by losses in technology, while U.S. markets also dipped. Here's a look at the numbers as we head to break. All right, embarrassed to say we were talking about weekend plans during the break there.
It's not
Curious
too early,
about the weather.
right? Yeah, no, it's not too early.
Never too early.
Yeah.
The 7-day forecast always includes a weekend. So
right,
it's, definitely want to keep an eye on that system that looks like it's going to be tracking to our south.
Okay.
Most of the models have that idea. Some a little bit closer that would bring us some snow, but they are in the minority camp right now. But we will keep you posted on that over the next few days. Have a look at our viewer picture of the day. This one, we're going to zoom in just outside of Halifax. This is beautiful Shad Bay, and you can see this picture. Obviously,
that is beautiful, isn't it?
Taken a few days ago, but Joan and Bob, thank you so much for sharing this. Ryan's picks at cbc.ca and the potential to get some more snow back on the ground there in Shad Bay beginning tomorrow, primarily into the afternoon and evening. Those winds from the west, 20 gusting 40 to 50 kilometers per hour for tomorrow. And so we'll be, keeping an eye on that. And as you can see here, there's your snowfall outlook in the later stages of tomorrow, through tomorrow evening, overnight, and into Thursday morning. This is where we are looking at indeed those kind of widespread totals of coating to 5 centimeters. But in northern areas, this is going to be our best chance of seeing closer to 5 to 10 centimeters. In Inverness, they're sticking out like a sore thumb, 15 to 30 centimeters there with the snowfall warning in effect. And again, there are those flurries tonight, quiet start to the day tomorrow, and then here come the flurries into the latter half of the day, evening, overnight, and then by Thursday morning, starting to break up, those some lingering flurries, even into the afternoon, though likely mixed with a couple of showers. There'll be more wet flurries than not. And then, we'll kind of be a little bit quieter for Friday. Still some flurry chances with this unsettled setup. We'll keep an eye on that weekend.
It's winter. Okay, thanks so much, Ryan. Well, it may be too late now to look under the Christmas tree, unless the tree itself is the treat.
Zoos in Germany have a different tradition after the holidays, putting Christmas trees on the menu. And apart from being tasty, the conifers are also good for scratching those hard-to-reach places.
And it's not just elephants and reindeer tucking into these holiday leftovers. Even giraffes appear to be enjoying the upcycled trees. For the safety of the animals, the zoos only accept unsold organic trees directly from the sellers.
Nothing but the best. Exactly. That's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good night.